Hello everyone and welcome to another Pauper news episode. Today we are talking about the lost Caverns of Ixalan and we are taking a look of what I think are the best top 4 cards of this set expansion. But first of all, we are taking a look at these set mechanics. In my opinion, this expansion could be really good as a draft or pre-release set, and we have a couple of very cool mechanics like craft, explore, and etc. I think it is also important to talk about these mechanics because maybe they can be good even in constructed, but usually they aren't. So making a clear distinction when those mechanics or cards are good could be really important, especially since when it comes to the difference between limited and constructed. Usually those set expansion, those set mechanics are very good only when are on uncommons or rares or mythics cards, while on commons are mostly too much expensive, so they can't really playable in Pauper, since it's the constructed format where only commons are playable, and most times commons are good only limited because there are restrictions, limitations related to the peculiarity of the draft format. So first of all, we have craft. Craft is a sort of you basically take one card with craft, exile a bunch of stuff, and flip it. You can craft only as a sorcery speed, but you can craft with only the cards, the type of card it is written on the ability. It is important to note, but it is important to note that you can exile one card from the graveyard or the battlefield. So this set has a huge focus on self-mill and having stuff permanents. You can exile with craft from your graveyard, could be really good, at least in the limited environment. So for that reason, a lot of stuff in this set expansion as craft or self-mill related abilities. In Pauper, probably there's not much with craft as a competitive play anyway. Then we have the sand, which is a weird mechanic because can be placed on a card as a keyword or as a word by itself in the text of the card. So the send can be considered as a sort of status. So you descended if you mill it or put from the battlefield or from your end a permanent card this turn. Or you can also have descend with a number, and in that case it is just count an amount of permanents on your graveyard. So basically the send is two separate keywords or abilities, but they works pretty similar, so that's kind of weird. Finally, we have this core, which is pretty much cascade, but it doesn't work on the stack. Instead, it works as an ETB. So discover, it works with number related to discover. In this case, discover 3 let you play a spell with mana cost 3 or less, And it is important to note that if you don't want to play the card, you can just draw it. So you reveal it and then put it in end. So it is better compared to Cascade if you consider that you can just draw the card instead of cascading in, just to say if you cascade a removal spell but your opponent doesn't have any creature, of course it is better to draw the card instead of casting it. And we have Explore finally, which isn't much different compared to the previous Ixalan set, but they also add the map tokens, which are artifacts that can let you, whatever creature you want, explore. When you explore, you reveal the first card of your library and draw it if it is a card, but it is a land card, but if it doesn't is a land card, you can just put on top or on your graveyard and then put a +1/+1 counter on your creature. So basically, Explore and the tokens map are very cool in this set, which has both craft and descent as other abilities, because Explores it fits really well alongside them. Okay, so first of all, we take a look at some cards. Family Reunion is not in my top 4, but it's a sort of special prize because I like the card, but it isn't much good. I mean, it's a sort of you meet in a cavern, similar effect, because it can let you win a game if you have no creatures, but is also sort of counter to your opponent removal spells, but is not good against mass removal, because most mass removals right now are Creeperats and Ruin Sorrow, so it's just give a +1/+1 and not a +2/+2, so it may be not much as a way to counter mass removals. So it's just a card I like, but I don't think that the card could be playable in paper. Okay, for the top 4, we have first in 3rd place Runaway Boulder. Runaway Boulder is maybe good in Flickertron because you can fetch it with Mystical Teachings, because Teachings can fetch you a card which is an instant spell, or it has Flash, and Runaway Boulder has Flash. So after casting Teachings to fetch this big removal spell, you then tap your Ursulans and cast it. So yeah, it's more a joke card than it is. It may seem, but since it doesn't cost colored mana, and in Flickertron you also play Ghost of Flicker, you can with Mnemonic Wall have a repetitive removal spell, which is very strong, since you are just tapping 3 mana and destroy one of your opponent creatures. Of course, if your opponent creator is Tolian Terror, you are also forced to tap the Ward Coast, but anyway, if you have the Ursulans and whatever mana you have, and you can flicker safely or Mnemonic Wall when you are able to blink Runaway Boulder, in my opinion, you have pretty much won against any terror deck, even without the presence of Runaway Boulder. Anyway, in Flickertron can really help you even against negative matchups like Walls Combo, because it's a very free removal spells when you can easily flicker it with Ghost of Flicker. It is also cool that you can cycle it if you don't really need the card, just to say maybe you are in dire search for something better, or you just don't need a card in the matchup, so when a card is very specific, but you can also cycle it to take an extra card, is probably good enough to be played in a control style deck like Flickertron. So in third position, Fanatical Offering. Fanatical Offering, as probably better known as Deadly Dispute number 2 or 3 or 4. I don't know. Wizards of the Coast is keeps printing new copies of Deadly Dispute, because basically this kind of card Wizards really like it in limited. So when there's the change, they just change something on the card and then propose it again in a new variant. So yeah, the dispute is good because it generates a treasure token, and you can sacrifice the treasure token to another copy of Deadly Dispute. And Fanatical Offering, yeah, create a map token, and you can sacrifice the map token to another copy of Fanatical Offering. So it is pretty much strong. Also, you can basically draw 3 cards with Fanatical Offering if you sacrifice your map token to explore. So it's probably in a certain ways even better compared to Deadly Dispute, because the treasure token gives you 3 mana, gives you an extra mana, Lotus Petal. This card is better if you consider much more the card advantage, but generally speaking, Dispute is of course better, because you know, unless you are playing something like Golgari or Altered Throne, probably you are playing a deck with a lot of creatures, I guess, because those 2 decks doesn't have a lot of creatures, so the map token doesn't matter a lot. Anyway, what I wanted to say is that you don't really need to compare Fanatical Offering to Deadly Dispute. It's just a sort of better Reckoner's Bargain in those decks that don't play Mirror Enforcer, because Mirror Enforcer with Reckoner's Bargain is by itself better compared to Fanatical Offering, because you get 7 extra life out of nowhere, and then you are able to overcome your mono red cool dota race, and you can easily win after that. While Fanatical Offering on the other is vice versa, much better in more control-ish decks, or decks that aren't able to sacrifice Mirror Enforcer, because you generate an extra token which can be sacrificed to Deadly Dispute, because in those decks, Reckoner's Bargain often feel really clanky, because you don't get much life. Generally speaking, you get back only 2 lives. And with Fanatical Offering, of course, you have more copies of Deadly Dispute, because you just want the extra artifact that can be an extra target for your Deadly Dispute. Yeah, you can also sacrifice the map token on your Colony Garden or on your Mirror Retriever, but generally speaking, it is of course better to just use your map token as a target for Fanatical Offering, because the card is just Night Whisper, that it is an instant speed spell that doesn't lose you life, and you create and you can basically you can chain, thanks to the artifacts you generate, another Fanatical Offering, and that is probably one of the strongest point of Deadly Dispute. And while we are still talking about Deadly Dispute, it is cool that Teething Blade is probably the second best card in this set. Maybe the first, because it is really strong, thanks to the presence of Deadly Dispute in the format at least. So if you don't consider Deadly Dispute and Ghost Flicker, this card is bad because it isn't Chainer's Edict, and Chainer's Edict provide you an extra removal spell if you have enough mana and if you are in late game. So Chainer's Edict is 9 mana, kill the 2 creatures, 2 of your opponent's best creature usually. While Sitting Blade is just Chainer's Edict, still sorcery speed, but doesn't provide an extra card, but you can sacrifice it with Deadly Dispute. So very much different compared to Chainer's Edict. Well, in this format, we have 2 artifacts, or maybe no, it is better to consider those decks as a Deadly Dispute deck, which have Ichor Wellspring, Blood Fountain, and of course Deadly Dispute, and often they also play enough removal spells in the main deck. So basically I'm talking about Golgari and Grixis Affinity. So you can play Sitting Blade in those decks, and probably the card is even better in Affinity compared to Golgari Control or Golgari Gardens as you prefer to call it. Because in Affinity can provide both a sacrifice target for Deadly Dispute, but also can give you Affinity. And yeah, in Affinity I'm already playing Cast Down, and often you can see Affinity playing Chainer's Edict, so basically can easily replace Chainer's Edict and become an even better removal spells in Affinity, thanks to a lot of cards basically. Sitting Blade is good, and the other side of Sitting Blade doesn't do much, but you know, it is better to have it compared to not having it. If you have enough mana and if you have a creature in your graveyard or on the battlefield, like a Kalani Garden token, you can craft it with this artifact Chainer's Edict, and transform it in a sort of Curse of the Personal Earth-like effect and get back 1 life per turn while forcing your opponent to lose 1 life. So yeah, just a very weak effect, but if the game goes long and long, if you have enough copies of Teetering Blade and you craft them, maybe not all of them, but enough copies, 2 or 3 copies, you are dealing a lot of damage and can also win even though you have lost all your creatures in the deck. And finally, Goblin Tomb Raider. Alright, so this card is very boring. I mean, I always complain about the Monastery with Sweet Spear, and Goblin Tomb Raider is just Goblin Guide. Goblin Guide, so it is probably weak compared to Monastery, or at least is not strong as Monastery's Sweet Spear, but it is still really good. Of course, it isn't Goblin Guide so often compared to the true Goblin Guide, but it is really worrying that the Cool Dota plays Great Furnace, Voldaren Epicure, Chromatic Star, or Implement of Combustion, and it may also play Lotus Petal as artifact. And yeah, there's also Experimental Synthesizer, so if your opponent with Mono Red Cool Dota does something like turn 1 Monastery's Whisper, turn 2 Experimental Synthesizer, oh, there's a Goblin Tomb Raider exiled with my Experimental Synthesizer. Yeah, that is a really troublesome start, because your opponent is attacking for 4 on its second turn. So that means you may just play turn 1 tapped land, and your opponent has already dealt 5 damage to you. Yeah, that is Pauper in 2023. So very like modern in 2017 or more or less. So Pauper is going faster and faster, and also it is thanks to those cards that are really worrisome to me, in my opinion. So let's spend a couple words on the other cards in this set expansion. There's nothing much compared to what we already talked. We have Employee of Oknek, how, which is bad, but you know, 3 mana, 3/3, yeah, kind of good, maybe in White Winnie, but I like the idea of playing it in Waltz combo because you can fetch it with Drift of Phantasm and generate infinite tokens, so it's an alternative win condition. It is not good. Yeah, it's clearly bad compared to whatever Invoker you may be playing, but I like the card, which so I like the idea of quoting it. So then we have Iron Paw Aspirant, which is 2 in power, 3 in toughness, with only 2 mana as a mana cost, which is good enough, I guess, at least in White Winnie, but compared to cards we already have in the deck, probably is not good enough. The white colors, there's nothing much else. We have Soaring Sandwing as a white card in the land cycling creature cycle. The white creature is of course the weaker card in this cycle of 5 commons because it has the poorer stats, only 3/5, and doesn't do anything when it enters on the battlefield. But you know, white is the first color in the image gallery, so I was forced to talk about it. Cogwater Wrestler, basically Brian Barrow Intruder without the human subtype, so it is not good with of mind, but people may like it in Azur's Glitter. I don't know, because I don't think that the card is good in Azur's Glitter, but at least a couple people suggested this idea, so it is good to at least talk about it. The blue creature with Island Cycling is clearly the best the best land cycling creature in this expansion. 6/7 is the biggest body, and Word 3 is really good. Yeah, if you play an Exhume deck, Marauding Brine Fang is good. So yeah, you have a cycling creature which fetch an island over a swamp if you are playing a Dimir Exhume or something similar. Oaken Siren, I like the card in Glitter, but probably is really bad, because 1/2 with Flying and Vigilance for only 2 mana, it may be good, I guess, but spending 2 mana for a creature in Azur's Glitter, I think is very bad rate. I haven't thought it has a mana ability that this ability gives mana only to cast or to activate abilities from artifact cards, so yeah, it's bad. Then we have Out of Here as a sort of Essence Scatter effect with the upside of becoming a counterspell if you tap to extra mana, because if the target is a creature spell, you can pay only double blue to counter it. Okay, cool if you are already playing 4 copies of Counterspell, but if you aren't, it's just worse compared to the other to Counterspell. So Essence Scatter is still better if you are playing familiars. Rolex Roar is weird enough a good card, because if you play Simic Infect, yeah, it is really comic, because Simic Infect isn't really a deck. It doesn't really exist a Simic Infect deck, but if you like the idea of playing Simic Infect and you also play Embiggen, you can target with Relics Roar first, and then with Embiggen, your creature, you can hypothetically kill your opponent on turn 2. Yeah, Relic Roar provides 2 extra type provides 2 extra types to the creature, and if the creature is a 1/1, basically it provides a +3 in power and a +2 in toughness. So in Begin, usually to Phyrexian type creatures gives a +4/+4. So with Relic's Roar, it provides an additional +2/+2. So basically, the creature with only 2 spells get +9 in power. Yeah, +9 with only 2 cards means that you are able to kill your opponent with only an Embiggen and 1 copy of Relic's Roar. So if you are playing Infect, it's probably better compared to Giant Growth. Yeah, maybe better, because with Giant Growth you can counter Lightning Bolt. You can't with Relic's Roar, because it doesn't provide +3 in tokens. Just keep it in mind. In black, there's not any good card besides the Dispute. Yeah, we have the Eco Wellspring number 2, which is of course worse compared to Eco Wellspring. It costs black mana, and also it loses you 2 lives, and that is a lot of life in a format where your opponent has Monasteries with Spear and Goblin Guide. Rampaging Spiketail, the black creature from the land cycling cycle. Yeah, can survive Snuff Out, can survive a Gourmag Angler or Atelian Terror. Doesn't really have a good or decent ability, but is still a more or less decent target for Exhume, or anyway, a decent body. I don't like it, but it is important to quote it probably. In red, we don't really have much. We have Italy's Favor. Italy's Favor is probably a sort of good card in Buggles, because it provides with a single card 2 auras hypothetically on your creature, because thanks to Discover 3 you can cascade some Ancestral Mask or all that glitter from the top of your deck. So you know, Buggles isn't really consistent as an aggro deck, and forcing it to go 3 colors could be a bad choice, but this card gives trample to the creature, and can also comes with another aura on your creature, so it's really great if you're able to target your creature with 2 auras with only 1 single card, because Ogles is also forced to mull a lot, trying to find a decent starting end, and Italy's Favor can really be huge for that thing. At least I like the idea of playing that card a sort of 2-for-1 in Buggles. Seismic Monsters are probably a decent mountain cycling creature in decks like Ponza, so basically an even better Oliphant. Yeah, it costs an extra mana, but it's a sort of Bonder's Ornament in late games. Flood is a common occurrence in decks like Ponza, and Bonder's Ornament was the card letting you draw extra cards in Group Ponza, providing a way to use all that mana. Right now, Ponza doesn't really have a late game, but with Seismic Monsters Hour, maybe you have some chance to draw extra cards and not die on the spot while playing Ponza. Sunshot Militia, a sort of gear provider grid for Pauper. The card is really weird because you are forced to play red and you're also forced to activate only as a sorcery. So, in my opinion, it is not strong enough for a deck like Affinity, especially if you are playing something like just Sky Glitter or Boros Glitter. You are just wasting your time tapping creatures and artifacts instead of just attacking your opponent. So, in my opinion, it isn't worth for any constructed format. Teutonic Hazard just ended the festivities with another name. Then in green, there's Malamet Brawler, 2/2, costs 2 mana, provides trample when it attacks. Maybe good in Stompy. I mean, the card is a decent body for its cost, and can also provide a pseudo evasive ability, so seems kind of good. Probably not worth enough because Stompy is not even playable right now, and you prefer more impactful cards, maybe. Nurturing Bristol Beck. The green forest cycling creature. When it enters the battlefield, create a token, 3/3 green dinosaur token. Yeah, cool. Maybe you can play both Junior's Int and Nurturing Bristol Beck in Gruul Punza. I'm not sure. Still, it's cool. And in the end, we talked about everything. Yeah, oh cool. So I guess we can stop the video. Thanks for watching and see ya.